Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodhandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Ramshnapad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Sadashri Srimad Shilabhaya Charana Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Canto 9, Chapter 18. So it's a new chapter. So we will read the summary of the chapter before going to the verse. King Yayati regains his youth. This is the title of the chapter. So this chapter gives the history of King Yayati, the son of Nahusa. Among Yayati's 5 sons, the youngest son, Puru, accepted Yayati's invalidity. When Nahusa, who had 6 sons, was cursed to become a python, his eldest son, Yati, took sannyasa, and therefore the next son, Yayati, was enthroned as king. By providence, Yayati married the daughter of Sukracharya. Sukracharya was a Brahmana and Yayati a Kshatriya, but Yayati married her nonetheless. Sukracharya's daughter, named Devayani, had a girlfriend named Sharmishta, who was the daughter of Vrisaparva. King Yayati married Sharmishta also. The history of this marriage is as follows. Once Sharmishta was sporting in the water with thousands of her girlfriends, and Devayani was also there. When the young girls saw Lord Shiva seated on his bull with Uma, they immediately dressed themselves. But Sharmishta mistakenly put on Devayani's clothes. Devayani, being very angry, rebuked Sharmishta, who also became very angry and responded by rebuking Devayani and throwing her into a well. By chance, King Yayati came to that well to drink water, and he found Devayani and rescued her. Thus Devayani accepted Maharaj Yayati as her husband. Thereafter Devayani, crying loudly, told her father about Sharmishta's behavior. Upon hearing of this incident, Sukracharya was very angry and wanted to chastise Rishaparva, Sharmishta's father. Rishaparva, however, satisfied Sukracharya by offering Sharmishta as Devayani's maidservant. Thus, Sharmishta, as the maidservant of Devayani, also went to the house of Devayani's husband. When Sharmishta found her friend Devayani with a son, she also desired to have a son. Therefore, at the proper time for conception, she also requested Maharaja Yati for sex. When Sharmishta became pregnant also, Devayani was very envious. In great anger, she immediately left for her father's house and told her father everything. Sukracharya again became angry and cursed Maharaj Yati to become old. But when Yati begged Sukracharya to be merciful to him, Sukracharya gave him the benediction that he could transfer his old age and invalidity to some young man. Yati exchanged his old age for the youth of his youngest son Puru, and thus he was able to enjoy with young girls. Text 18.1 Sri Sukha Vacha Yatir Yati Samyatir Ayatir Vyati Kritihi Shat Ime Nahushasyasan Indriyaniva Dehinaha. Translation: Sukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, as the embodied soul has 6 senses, King Nahusha had 6 sons named Yati, Yayati, Samyati, Ayati, Vyati and Kriti. Text 2. Please repeat. Rajyam na aichat yatihi yati pitra datham tatparinamavit yatra pravishtaha purushaha atmanam na avabudhyate. Rajyam naichat yati pitra Rajyam naichat yati pitra datam tat parinamavit datam tat parinamavit yatra pravishta purusha yatra pravishta purusha atmanam navabudhyate atmanam navabudhyate. Rajyam naichat yati pitra datam tat parinamavit yatra pravishta purusha atmanam navabudhyate. Mataji. Rajyam, the kingdom, na ichat, did not accept. Yatihi, the eldest son, Yati, Pitra, by his father, Datam, offered, Tat Parinamavit, knowing the result of becoming powerful as a king. Yatra, wherein, Pravishtaha, having entered, Purushaha, such a person, Atmanam, self realization, Na, not, Avibudhyate, will take seriously and understand. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya, ISKCON and BBD. Translation: when one enters the post of king or head of the government, one cannot understand the meaning of self-realization. Knowing this, Yati, the eldest son of Nahusha, did not accept the power to rule, although it was offered by his father. Purport: self-realization is the prime objective of human civilization, and it is regarded seriously by those who are situated in the mode of goodness and has developed the Brahmanical qualities. Kshatriyas are generally endowed with material qualities conducive to gaining material wealth and enjoying sense gratification. But those who are spiritually advanced are not interested in material opulence. Indeed, they are not Indeed, they accept only the bare necessities for a life of spiritual advancement in self-realization. It is specifically mentioned here that if one enters political life, especially in the modern day, one loses the chance for human perfection. Nonetheless, one can attain the highest perfection if one hears Srimad Bhagavatam. This hearing is described as Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Maharaj Parikshit was involved in politics, but because at the end of his life he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami, he attained perfection very easily. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore suggested, Sthane stitah shrutigatam tanuvan manobir yah prayasho jito ajito api asti asitais trilokyam. Bhagavatam 10.14.3. Regardless of whether one is in the mode of passion, ignorance, or goodness, if one regularly hears Srimad Bhagavatam from the self-realized soul, one is freed from the bondage of material involvement. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukom karoti vachalam pangum langayate grimit kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasas Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devin Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashchati Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gauravakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rajyam naichad yati pitra dattam tat parinamavid yatra pravishta purusha atmanam navabhutyate. Translation: when one enters the post of king or head of the government, one cannot understand the meaning of self-realization. Knowing this, Yati, the eldest son of Nahusha, did not accept the power to rule, although it was offered by his father. So we can understand that the goal of human life is self-realization. We can see from the teachings of Rishabhadev to his sons, Nayam Deho, Deho Bhajam Niloke, Kashtana Kama Narhate, Vidbhujame, Tapo Divyam Putrakayena Sattvam, Suddhet Yasmat, Brahma Saukyam Tvanantam. So human life is meant to perform austerities for a divine cause, tapo divyam, to get the Brahma Sukha, the highest spiritual happiness, instead of wasting time for ahara, nidra, bhaya, maituna, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Human life is meant for spiritual realization. So, when we achieve human life, we have to mold our life in such a way that we achieve this self-realization at the end of our lifetime. So everybody is taking birth with different vasanas, different karmas, different levels of purity. So Srila Krishna has created this varnashrama dharma, brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyas. So based on our guna and karma, our activities and our qualities, we can situate in a favorable situation so that we can execute our duties. At the same time, if the society is Deva Varnashrama, keeping Krishna in the center, then we can spiritually uplift ourselves also. So, Brahmanas are detached and who are in Sattva Guna, and Kshatriyas are in the mode of passion. So the rulers, the politicians, the leaders of the society. So we need all these four classes of people. Brahmanas are required, Kshatriyas are also required. So in various histories, we can see sometimes the children of Kshatriyas reject the kingdom on the pretext, not just on the pretext, they really wanted to perform spiritual activity, and therefore they want to reject the throne, reject the kingdom. Not simply on the pretext of spirituality, they are escaping from responsibilities. That's not the point. Rather, for a higher dharma, they give up the lower dharma. For a higher cause, they give up the lower cause. So otherwise, we cannot give up our duties. Everybody has to perform their duties, like brahmacharis. So when brahmacharis, when we do college preaching and students join temple, or the young people when they join temple, parents are offended. How our lineage will continue. We are coming from the great Raja Adiraja. So our dynasty is known for so great cause. Now you don't want to continue the dynasty. So it's like in the jail, in the prison house, there is grandfather and there is father. Both of them are in the prison house. And when son enters prison house, both grandfather and father are appreciating. My dear son, yes, you are great. That you are continuing our dynasty, the glory of our dynasty, which is to do all nonsense and to stay in the prison house. So just how this example is funny. So it is the same when people say our dynasty should continue in this world. Krishna says this is jail. What is the use of continuing our dynasty in this jail? So the purpose is to liberate, not to continue here. Go out of this jail. So therefore, those who understand this, sometimes, although they are supposed to take up the throne, they give up the kingdom. We see there are devotees who are Raja Rishis, who accepted the throne and who ruled based on dharma. And on the other side, we also see kings who are supposed to take throne, but they give up their kingdom. So many examples we can see. Parikshit Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj. So great kings, they were all Raja Rishis, saintly kings, Swayambhuva Manu, all Manus were also great kings, great rulers, Prajapatis. But on the other side, we can see there are devotees who rejected also. The Kumaras, they also reject. Now here, Yati, he wants to reject also. So there are many kings who rejected. So, depends. The Guru will tell us what is best for us and what is best for society. Some people, if they renounce, that is better for them and for the kingdom. Some people, if they don't renounce, that's good for their own self. We can see sometimes some devotees want to join ashram. Their authorities will say, Prabhuji, better get married. You can be happy in spiritual life, you can advance. If you renounce, maybe you cannot advance. And some devotees who wants to get married, and then authorities will say, Prabhuji, why don't you try a little more? Try to be brahmachari, that is good for you. If you get married, you may get lost. So, based on our psychophysical conditions, our physical and mental conditions, our Guru will guide us. And also depends, in these cases, they are all great kings and they are Raja Rishis, and based on Krishna's desire, they act in different way. So one side is kings, another side is saints, Rajas and Rishis. Both, if you see, they have completely different qualities. Kings, they live an opulent life, and Rishis, they live in forest. Kings can marry many wives, whereas Rishis, mostly they have only one wife, with the exception of few. They have so many maid servants, kings, they have so many maid servants, and Rishis, they live very simple life. And kings, they are exposed to wealth, women, sense gratification. Rishis, completely sense control. Only one wife, that too, very restricted relationship for sense gratification. They marry only for the sake of dharma. What is that dharma? For begetting a child, putra, and to perform sacrifices. So, although we understand to be brahmachari is the best course of life, but not all can control senses. So therefore, there is an option, one can get married. But that marriage is not a license for unlimited sense gratification. So one is allowed to get married at the same time when he follows the dharma, then he gets gradually purified of his sense gratification, of his desires. So we can see, one side there is rishis, another side there are kings. But there are Raja Rishis who have combination of both. They have all opulence, at the same time they are fully detached. So we will see some of these personalities. So one side we see, I was just giving some examples. Devotees royally reject everything. They don't want money, they don't want posts, they don't want anything. And on the other side, we see some people completely craving for this. They are waiting to get the seat, and they are waiting for getting the post. So they are eagerly, whole life, they are dedicated to become a leader, to become a king, to become rich man, to have many followers. Their whole life is meant for achieving these things. On the other side, you see personalities who, although are given these things, they reject it. So it is completely different consciousness, different perception. How? When you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, your perspective changes. This is what is the difference between a materialist and spiritualist. So a materialist sleeps on the lap of Maya very comfortably. So he has no problem with Maya. But whereas karmis, you can see, they rush, they embrace Maya. They don't even know this is Maya. So that is the nature of karmis. So it's completely opposite. Puja, labha, pratishta. Working for name, fame, glories. People do anything to get these things. Wherever you go in this world, it's full of politics. Not only in politics, any field of life. Let it be sports, let it be spirituality, let it be education, let it be a medical hospital, a doctor in a government medical hospital. I was speaking to a doctor whose goal was to serve people. So he was so qualified, and he took a government job to serve people. But he said, government hospital is full of politics. So there will be a patient who is required for a treatment, immediate treatment, but there will be some other patient who will be coming with recommendation and he has to be treated first. And lives are at stake. They are playing with lives. So he said so much politics. So whatever his ambitions was, he is completely frustrated. So politics is not only in political life, but politics is there in everything. Even to, as I said, sports, academics, anything. It's full of politics. We are sometimes thinking within ISKCON we have some politics, but we have to go outside and see how much politics is there in the outside world. At least we have Krishna in the center. So outside is so gross. It's very difficult. And what to speak of political life? Is especially in modern days, is full of hypocrisy, cheating, diplomacy. It's very difficult to be a Raja Rishi. So, to be Rishi is difficult, to be Raja is difficult, and what to speak of Raja Rishi? So, it's very, very difficult. Even if we have little followers, 4 likes for our lecture in YouTube, so great, so many people like, nice comment. People says, Prabhuji, your lecture is super. Oh, great. Feeling so much proud. So for 4 likes, we are so much proud. And you have 4 billion followers. You are king. Everybody is at your disposal. So how much sense gratification, how much ahankar, how much material opulence will be there. So it is very difficult to maintain a very humble consciousness. Kanaka Kamani, money and women is very difficult. So we see great kings, Sibi Maharaja, Ranti Deva, Prathaparudra. On one side we see Ramananda Roy, who was a king, who was a Kshatriya, who was ruling a big kingdom. On the other side you see Goswamis who are detached, who are not Kshatriyas, who are Brahmanas. They are above Brahmanas. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed both of them equally. Externally their position was different, but because they were doing everything, Krishnarte Akila Cheshta, everything only for pleasing Krishna, then wherever they are, whatever they are doing, they can be spiritually pure. They can be fulfilling their real goal of the human life. So these Raja Rishis, they are kings, but they are detached. They don't spend money for their sense gratification. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says this chain of this knowledge was coming through evam parampara praptam imam raja rishiyo viduha sakala neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. It was coming through the chain of disciplic succession through the saintly kings, Raja Rishis. So the kings, they were so trained in Gurukul that they were very much detached. They knew the goal of life. They knew what is dharma and adharma, how to rule the kingdom. So we have a great example, Lord Ram, who was Ekapatni Vrata. Right? Ram was taking Ekapatni Vrata. So, although kings were allowed to marry many wives, why did Ram has to take this vrata of Ekapatni vrata? Kings, Ram's own father, Dasharat Maharaj, father-in-law, Janak Maharaj, whom Bhagavad Gita refers as an ideal person. Yadyad acharati shrestha. The previous shloka says the leaders like Janaka Maharaj, although they were completely in transcendental position, nevertheless they followed all the principles, all the codes, moral codes. So these personalities, they married thousands of wives. Many kings married thousands of wives. So why, although Lord Ram could marry many wives, why he had to take Ekapatni Vrata? So Srila Prabhupada in a purport, so he mentions that Ekapatni Vrata, accepting only one wife, was the glorious example set by Lord Ramachandra. One should not accept more than one wife. In those days, of course, people did marry more than one wife. Even Lord Ramachandra's father accepted more wives than one. But Lord Ramachandra, as an ideal king, accepted only one wife, Mother Sita. So Guru Maharaj in a lecture, he mentioned that. So Ram thought, if I could do my dharma, which is to rule the kingdom, to be a Kshatriya, if I could do my dharma simply by accepting only one wife, why should I accept more wife? More wives means more sense gratification. So you have Gujarati wife, you have Andhra, Telugu, wife from Telangana, wife from Andhra Pradesh, wife from Tamil Nadu, wife from Kerala. So imagine how your cuisine will be. So every day you have international, one from Italy, one from London, one from Australia, one from America. So every day you can have different cuisines. Sometimes we also in International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we are all from brahmacharis or grahasthas. We are all from different backgrounds, different region, religion, caste. So you put different people in kitchen, so you may have different cuisines, different flavors, different taste. So very easy. So International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So kings, so they have this opulent life. But why they should get married first of all? So they need wife to do sacrifice. Sacrifice is meant to protect the kingdom for one's own purification, and the king need a son, putra. So therefore, he has to get married. So when Ram thought, when I have one wife, which is sufficient to do my duties, why should I marry more wives? Although they could marry, so the underlying principle is there that marriage is meant for sense gratification also, not only for child and sacrifice. The idea is there that to satisfy my desires. Correct? Otherwise, we could be a brahmachari. Why you should become a grahastha? You could be a brahmana. So the whole idea that I cannot be a brahmana or a brahmachari is that I want to get married. So although there are duties, but apart from duties, there is an underlying principle that for our own sense gratification, a king marries many wives. So Ramchandra, Prabhupada said, as an ideal king, he didn't marry more than one wife. He has taken this Ekapatni Vrata. So now Guru Maharaj explained that Janaka Maharaj, although he is an ideal personality, ideal king, he married many wives. So how to understand this? So then Guru Maharaj explained that when we preach to the general mass, so when we ask people to follow a leader, if that leader is too far from the public to reach, too high in his qualities, too high in his quality of detachment, so then it is like very difficult for people to follow such an example. So therefore, sometimes the examples are given like this, like that of Janaka Maharaj. Although they are internally so high, externally they are seemingly worldly. Externally they are appearing as if they are a worldly personality. So it becomes very easy for people in general to follow such personalities rather than giving example of some saintly kings, very renounced king or Raja, things like that. So Guru Maharaj explained this like that. So if you see the life of a king, Guru Maharaj explained, even for their bathing, hundreds of maid servants will wake up before king just to prepare the bath water. So they have to get various herbs, various perfumes, and they have to freshly grind it, prepare a very pure water for the king to bathe. So all these things the king, the king's maid servants will do. There are hundreds of maid servants. So Guru Maharaj was giving example of Jayalalitha. So it seems he learned from somebody that Jayalalitha had one servant only for making Horlicks. So, king, yeah, I mean, Guru Maharaj said that, those days there were so many people and they may have less employment. So king has to engage many people in various ways. So he may use in his own service. So in that way, I'm just giving one example how opulent king's life was. So Ram was literally he was Raja Rishi, not only in the sense of detachment in consciousness, being sitting in the throne, but he is completely detached. Not only in that, in his life he was exiled to forest, and he was looking like a rishi also. He had to wear the bark of the tree. He had to wear the deer skin, looking like a rishi, but he was having bow and arrow. Again, a contradictory. Rishi with bow and arrow, looking like a rishi, but he's having Kshatriya armor. So, yes, although he took the role of a rishi when it was asked, when his parents wanted him to renounce. So he became a rishi. He was always a rishi, but he was a Raja Rishi. He was a saintly king. He was always doing his duty. He was always protecting. He was killing demons. He was killing asuras to protect his kingdom. And he was also very dutiful to his one wife. And he killed Ravana and so many demons to rescue his wife. So although kings means involvement with money and women, and Rishi means completely detached from these things, we can see from the example of Lord Ram and other saintly kings, as I said, Parikshit Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Arjun. So although they were all kings, they were all Raja Rishis. So this principle we can see from the teachings of Goswami, Yukta Vairagya, Prapanchita Kathaya Buddhya Hari Sambandhina Vashtuna, Mumikshubi Parityaga Vairagyam Falgu Katyate, Anashaktasya Vishayan Yatharam Upayunjate Nirbandhe Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchate. So this example of being detached while engaging material things in Krishna's service is explained that these kings, they are acting on this principle. They engage everything in Krishna's service being detached. Anashaktasya, ana-ashakta. Ashakti means attachment. Anashaktasya means being detached. We are all so taking it for granted, this Yukta Vairagya. In the name of Yukta Vairagya, sometimes devotees, they use all material objects in Krishna's service, and due to not being completely detached, we can see they get carried away with these positions, they get carried away with this material opulence, and then they lose their Krishna consciousness altogether. The whole point of giving all these things is to increase the Krishna consciousness, but at the end of the day, they lose Krishna consciousness. So therefore, a guru or an authority will choose how much a devotee can be exposed to these things. They can know the best. So the cell phones, for example, cell phones are given for preaching, but sometimes the same cell phones, kill the life of a devotee. They completely get entrapped in Maya. So therefore, one should be detached before, in the name of Yukta Vairagya, utilizing all these things. So if you see that you cannot handle such objects or such positions, so simply you can admit to your spiritual master, to your authority that, Prabhuji, I think I cannot manage these things, it is so disturbing. So then accordingly, Guru and our authority will engage us in Krishna service. So one should be very careful. Otherwise, simply rejecting everything in the name of saying it to be material is also false renunciation, because nothing is ours, so what is there to renounce? So only thing to renounce is the attitude of attachment. So how this is possible? So Prabhupada gives the answer in the purport by regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has given us every day hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, evening Bhagavad Gita class. All the devotees, they come together for Mangalarati, for hearing and chanting and dancing together and hearing and discussing these topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, every day reading Srila Prabhupada books. In wherever position, whatever we are doing, sthane stita shrutigatham tanuvan manobir. So if our psychophysical nature doesn't allow us to give up our household life, so no problem. Wherever you are, if we can regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam, follow the principles. So whatever we are doing, whether we are driving crane, driving lorry, whether we are selling lottery, so while driving lorry, all the time you hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you keep on hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one day you have to stop driving lorry. One day you will stop driving lorry if you regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So not with the wrong idea that you get absorbed in hearing and you hit somebody and in accident you stop driving lorry. So there was what was that video somebody made for chanting, how people are chanting in a wrong way. It was a little funny and instructive video. So usually we are advised, don't drink and drive, correct? Because if you drink and drive, you will end up in accident. So devotees have a habit of chanting while driving. I have to finish 16 rounds, but I have to drive my car. What to do? I have no time. So they are drinking the Nama Rasa. They are drinking the taste of holy name and driving. So this is not advised. Driving, yes, we are advised to chant always, but 16 rounds should be an attentive rounds. So whatever we are doing, if we regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam not from professional speakers, Srila Prabhupada was very clear, from a self-realized soul. There may be very great eloquent speakers, Vaishnavas also, maybe, but they may not have purity. They may be giving big lectures only for the sake of their own name, fame, glories. They may themselves not having enough purity. They don't follow things. But they may be very expert, eloquent speakers. So we may not get that much attraction, spiritual attraction. We may be attracted with their eloquent speaking. We may get so much of informations. We may get so much of points, new points from their lectures, jokes, things like that. But we may not get purified. Hridantasto hi abhadrani vidunohuti surtam sadam satam prasangam. So by hearing regularly, what should happen? The abhadrani, the inauspicious things. Shubhadra. Bhadra means auspicious, Shubhadra means more auspicious. Abhadra means inauspicious. Hridantosto hi abhadrani. The impurities within our heart, the lust, anger, greed. Why? Because Lord is situated in our heart, and when we eagerly hear His message, when we have taste to chant Hare Krishna, when we have taste to hear, then Lord within our heart will remove all the obstacles in the path of devotional service. Otherwise, we are worried, Prabhuji, I have so much lust, so much anger, so much greed. It looks as if I cannot come out of this difficulty. It's true. We cannot come out of these difficulties. We cannot remove these obstacles ourselves. That's not possible. Maya is so big. Devi yesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Krishna says it's not possible to get rid of this maya, to cross this material ocean. Mam evayi prapadyante maya metam tar. But by surrendering to Krishna, it is possible. By Krishna can help us to cross the material ocean. We ourselves cannot. So Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, but those who eagerly hear Srimad Bhagavatam, those who have developed the taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, they have no taste for hearing India Today news, Times of India. They don't have taste to hear Prajalpa, what that devotee is doing, this devotee is doing. As soon as there is little politics, immediately there is taste. Oh, what happened? As if he's pretending as if he is there to help the devotee, but there is a taste to hear the political crisis. There is a taste to hear how other devotees have got caught in Maya. So this taste, if we have, then we may not get purified. So devotees have to prioritize first reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first chanting Hare Krishna. Then, for service sake, sometimes we may have to see news and we may have to hear some, not Prajalpa, but about so-called stories of other Vaishnavas. But the priority is there, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So that taste, that eagerness should be there. Krishna knows He is there. He is within everyone's heart. So some devotees are there for 10 years, 20 years in the movement, not read Srimad Bhagavatam even one time. But they know history of all devotees. From great acharyas to the yesterday's newcomer. They know history, everything. They can relate to anyone's story. So how it is possible? So it depends upon our desire. So I remember I used to tell Chittahari Prabhu, so when he joined ashram, 5 years, 10 years he was in ashram, he used to tell, I wasted my younger life, I got Krishna conscious in young age, but I didn't observe myself in Prabhupada books. I could not study for years. He was lamenting, and now for years you can see how much nicely he's absorbed in Srila Prabhupada books. Yes, Gurukul children help him mutually to realize the subject matters. But nevertheless, you can see, if we have desire, we can see devotees. They are very busy in service, but at the same time, they can find time for reading. That's also cheating in the name of service. Oh, I'm so much service, but I have no time for reading because I have so much service. This is also cheating. If you have desire, you will find. Sometimes in ashram, 7:30 devotee comes, no prasadam, but he is so hungry. He will make sure he will get. He is hungry, he will get. From where, how, we don't know. It will manifest. How it manifests, sometimes very difficult to understand. Beg, borrow, steal. So you have desire, you get it. So that tivrena, that intense desire if we have, there is no time, but I want to read Bhagavatam. So then Krishna will arrange. Krishna is there within our heart. He knows what is our desire. So accordingly, He will give us all facilities. You want to stay in ashram, be a demon? Yes, you will be provided that facility. You may not be able to continue for a long time. So all facilities, Krishna is there. So much dirt is there in our heart. Still Krishna is there. If there is some dirt, and if we want to touch that for some reason, take something from that dirt, we just see that minimum touch we will do. As much as possible, take that without touching the dirt. But Krishna is right there inside our heart, which is soaked with full of abhadrani, impurities. This N95 mask, sometimes when we are driving, there's this corporation lorry, we may have to overtake. Horrible smell. Few seconds we cannot tolerate. But these people there, they stay in this lorry, do all the work. So this N95, Krishna has to wear what mask? 995, I don't know, 1000. N1000 mask. 95 is not enough. 999 to the power of 999. Such impurities is there in our heart. But as our friend, Surat Sadam, as a well-wishing friend, always he is staying with us, trying to guide us, inspire us, to teach us that what should be our priority and how to get rid of all these abhadra. So he is there inside. This is the place where lust is there. Enemy is situated right in our heart, in our mind, in our senses. So Krishna is there. So He can attack these enemies and He can help us to save us from all these enemies. So that is possible when we regularly prioritize hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, regularly reading Srila Prabhupada, engaging in service. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Namavet Grahayam Indriye. So these services, so whatever we are doing, wherever we are, if we can somehow mold our life so that we can regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam, chant Hare Krishna, do some seva, then no matter where we are, we can achieve our perfection. So, of course, as I said, gradually, we should not misuse this verse. Okay, we can be engaged in material duties, and we can be liberated so easily. We all have to check our heart. It is possible, but it's not always easy. So therefore, after some time, we have to give up these duties and focus more on hearing also. So this should not be used for escaping from the fact that we have to renounce our duties also. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Any questions, any comments, any mistakes? अंतरा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।